we were related 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations back to a common ancestor that connects down through this line to me. And these are the children, 4 boys and 2 girls. But this is also showing that he's genetic, through these 4 women, that he has these children. And so he had his father do the test, and then he found out we are connected, and then my sister and another brother are also connected. And then we have another connection that just came in February, and this is a man I knew 23 years ago, and we were both architects. So anyway, when she told me, I was age 87, it suddenly brought back all of those old feelings of shame, and so I was very elated because for many years I just thought, my mother was not faithful to my dad. So I immediately asked, who is my father? And she says, why do you want to know that? And I says, why wouldn't I want to know that? And she then said, well, she gave me the name of the gynecologist. He said you would never be able to find out who the father was because it's just not available, and this has to be anonymous. So you'll never find out. So for the next 30 years, I've been searching for my father. And why should somebody have the right to decide for us beyond, and this decision to say, I don't have a right to know who I was not made by Congress, it was not made by democracy, it was made by a group of doctors. They had no right to make that decision.
This is Ryan's great-grandmother. This is your great-grandmother and grandfather. This is me and my dad, so that's Ryan's grandfather. So this is one set of your great-grandparents and the other set of your great-grandparents.
Great-grandparents.
Yeah.
Lou.
So, no.
No.
That's Lou and Edna, Kramer.
Yes. Oh, and
Max and
Max.
Betty Guild.
Max, Jackie's
Yeah.
father.
I think 6 people away from hitting 43,000.
43?
Yeah, so
All
it'll
right.
happen probably tomorrow.
Really? So probably within a year or two, we'll hit 50,000?
50,000 would be huge.
That's a big milestone. That's a big milestone.
That's going to take a while.
Well, we get how many new ones a day on average? 3 or 4?
Yeah, like maybe 100, 150 a month.
So it could be a
It's
few
gonna
years.
take a while.
All right.
So we can actually, I still have the Yahoo group because we kept it for just messages, so it's a place for people to chat. But, let's see, we can go back and look at message number 1. Here's the very first message from September 3rd, 2000. And I said, donor 1058, I am the mother of an awesome 10-year-old donor child. I know that he has at least 3 donor siblings and would love to contact them. We are looking for donor 1058 from the California Cryobank. I hope that this board will serve others looking for their children's or their own siblings.
Is
And
this
that was the very first message.
the very first message
Yeah,
of DSR?
of the DSR. And I can see photos of my half-brother. Wow. So you can share photos also. I encourage people to post on here because if you're a mother and you're maybe a little nervous about reaching out and connecting, reading these success stories might help you feel more comfortable to read about how it's okay and reaching out is okay, it's in your control. You can go as fast as slow as you want. But here are some wonderful, heartwarming stories of families coming together, families expanding, friendships and bonds being made.
Do you remember the feeling when you found your sister at the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. I was very, very curious for my entire life. So I had these big questions. I didn't know if they would ever be answered. So the very first time that I got to meet somebody who shared that invisible half of my DNA was very exciting. And I remember just being kind of dumbstruck, amazed by how much we had in common and how much we looked alike, and just that type of thing. It was really, really fascinating. Imagine meeting somebody who you share half of your DNA with, but that you've never met before. It was very, very interesting.
You seems never felt such a very negative
Right,
feeling
right,
about the fact of donor conception,
right.
right?
Yes, definitely. I think the main thing is because I was told very, very young. So my mom had not really been sure what to expect in terms of when I would start asking. But because she was a single parent, she knew that eventually I would ask why I didn't have a dad. And it happened when I was 2 years old. And I basically just came up to her one day and had seen other kids at school who had a mom and a dad, and basically said, you know, well, what I said to her exactly was, did my dad die or what? And she didn't know exactly how to explain it, but I think she did a very good job for a child of such a young age, explaining how in my particular circumstance, you know, she wanted to have a baby, but she needed a nice man who we didn't know to help, and that was okay. And she just presented it very truthfully, but in a very benign way, such that it wasn't good or bad, and there was nothing to be ashamed about, or it wasn't a secret or anything like that. It was just the facts, and this is the way it is, and that should be fine. And I think because I was told at such a young age, and because it was presented to me in a way that I never had to feel shame or anything like that. It was always just okay. And then every year we would kind of discuss it a little bit more, and I'd get a few more of the details until I was a little older and I really understood what it meant. But because I knew from such an early age, there was never a shock, and I never found out, or I never uncovered a secret. It was always just sort of okay with me.
Well, I just knew as a human being, telling the truth is always better. And lying to your own child didn't feel like it would be the right thing to do. Now, as far as when to tell him or how to tell him, I had no idea. You know, the few things that were available back then said when a child is maybe 5 or 6, they might start asking questions. And then when I had a 2-year-old come to me, I thought, oh my God, this wasn't supposed to happen yet. So I was very, very unprepared, but at the same time, kind of relieved that it was now an open conversation. It was the cornerstone for that conversation that then we would have many, many times and many questions. So for Ryan, there was no shock because it was something he knew since he was 2. It was just incorporated into his identity, who he was. And that's why we recommend telling right from the very beginning, so you don't have the shock value. Even children that are told. So I guess the thing is, telling is very important. We expect the truth from our children, so we owe them the truth, especially about something as important to this. This is a part of their identity. So I feel it's very, very important that we tell our children the truth, and as early as possible, to avoid anger, upset, confusion, you know, my world turned upside down, that kind of a thing. It can be very shocking, but telling is not the end of the story. People think, oh good, now that I've told, I'm done. No, that's the beginning.